It's 2024 and people are still moving to Texas.
Yes, today we're gonna find out why so many people are moving to Texas. If this is your first time in our channel and you want to know everything about Houston, Texas, then subscribe below and tap that bell for notifications so you're gonna be the first one to know about the current market here in Houston, Texas.
We get calls every day from people just like you, and whether you're moving 9 months or 9 days, we wanna make your move to Texas, but Houston, Texas, as smooth as possible. All of our information is down below, so contact us to get started today. But let's go see why people are moving to Texas.
Let's see.
All right, I think we should start with the juicy stuff first. Like the real reason why people are probably moving to Texas, if they're coming from like New York, New Jersey, California, and things like that, it's because of the home values here in Texas. So Texas as a whole tends to be a more affordable housing market compared to other states in general. But I'm gonna talk about Houston a little bit more. So over the last 20 to 25 years, Houston has had an increase in value year over year. As a matter of fact, it's only been twice in the last 20 years or 23 years technically, where we went below or we lost value in our homes. And that was in 2007 during that crisis. And then in 2009, where we had a little bit of ripple effect on that. Now, while Houston was losing value in their homes, let's just say by like 0.4 or 3% of their home of the values, other states were losing way more than just that. So I think it was a national crisis, but Houston as a whole did really well and recovered quickly. So quickly that the average year over year growth in home values is 4%. So all that to say that we're buying relatively cheap here and our money is growing as we own the houses for longer.
Yeah, definitely one of the major things I would say that's the reason why people move to here is the home value. It surprised me that a few weeks ago, I posted a story in my Instagram, and the main thing I wanted to see is how good people could guess how was the value of the homes that I was showing. And what surprised me is that my friends from here and my followers from Houston, they nailed it. They said, that house is around 600,000. And I was surprised, but they guessed it very well, the price. But my friends from Miami, they said that the home value for the house could be 1.2 million.
Yep.
That tells you right there that the same house, and it's exactly what happens, the same house here in Houston, Texas, could be priced for 600,000, in Miami could be 1.2 million.
Yeah, and I work with buyers from like New Jersey and New York and California specifically, and that's always the case there where we're out showing houses, and the $300,000 houses that they see here, they're saying it's worth 800, even $1 million in some situations, or even $1 million plus if it's like Los Angeles and where they come from. So they're getting a lot more bang for their buck, and especially if let's say you're from California and you've owned a home for 10 years or 5 years. We have a lot of people who move here to work from work reasons, which we're going to talk about, but they'll sell their houses in California and have enough equity to buy a house cash and have some money left over, all while not compromising their income, right? So that's kind of a big reason, a biggest motivator why people try to move out here.
And that's one thing that is doing one of my clients from New York is exactly that. They are selling their house for $1 million. They're gonna buy a house here in Houston, in Richmond, for $500,000 cash, so they don't have to pay mortgage and interest rates and get all worried about that, and they're gonna have extra money for retirement.
Yep. So let's talk about number 2, which I think is probably one of the second biggest reasons why people move out here, and it's absolutely the tax advantages. I mean, you'll see all of the big sports figures who come to Texas always say that they're going to keep more money in their pocket because we have no state income tax, and that's true. It doesn't just apply to all of the sports people that move out here. It applies to all of the blue collar and white collar and everybody who lives out here. So there is no state income tax. So you only have to pay federal taxes on your income. And that just means more money in your pocket at the end of the day. And I think people, especially with certain types of jobs and salaries, they appreciate that. And just more money in your pocket means you are in control of your income.
not only that, that sometimes when you shop like groceries, the taxes are very low. Sometimes they don't have taxes at all.
On groceries, yeah. So it's not just income tax, it's also like sales taxes too.
Sales tax,
so
yeah.
we have a 6.25% sales tax out here. And there are some jurisdictions that add about 2% depending on certain items and stuff to make it like 8.25. However, as a whole, Texas is very conservative in that sense. So they try to not tax you in that where they can. Like you said, the groceries. Now there is kind of like the con, like how does Texas make their money if they're not, taxing your income? It's the property taxes.
Taxes.
The property taxes is where the state basically makes most of their money outside of, the imports and exports, but that's just a whole separate thing altogether. So when you do own a piece of property here in Texas, you have to pay taxes depending on the value or the assessed value of that property.
Yeah.
Now, the good thing is that that's been something for the last 4 or 5 years, ever since, the inflation of prices, that the state has tried to make really good efforts to not let the property taxes just skyrocket and be out of control and get people to not even be able to afford their own house anymore because of the property taxes. So they've discounted some stuff. We have like...
Exactly. If you live in your primary residence, you can apply for the homestead exemption, and that could save you a lot of thousands a year. And not only that, it's not going to increase crazy the amount of taxes for your property that you're going to pay year after year.
And that was, I think, 2 years ago or maybe 3 years ago where they passed that law where they're capping how much year over year the property value, the assessed value can grow. So it's not like if your house can go from 300 to 1 million 1 year or the next year. There's a certain percentage, and the percentage depends on the district, and then there's a lot of factors in. So I don't want to tell you an exact percentage. Just know that they've passed laws to control that too, so that you don't go from paying $8,000 in property taxes 1 year to all of a sudden paying $20,000 the next year. That's probably a really good one though. But the income tax is the biggest thing, right?
Yeah,
People want to keep,
one.
Texas likes to keep their money in their pockets and not in the government hands.
It's so business friendly that it makes it like...
It makes sense for all of that. So I guess true, because I guess the employers can afford to pay their people at a good rate, and the employees can feel like they can actually afford living here because, like you said, the housing is a little bit lower to cost here in Texas, but also because you have money in your pocket, you can afford groceries and stuff like that. Now, as you can tell, and I don't want to get into crazy details, but there are a lot of big industry people that are moving to Texas. And that's just creating so many jobs out here. Now, Houston was always a number one, or like, in my opinion, the number one place for jobs. Like, it's always been as a matter of fact, I think our unemployment rate's 4.1, but that's gonna lead us to number 3 reason why people are moving to Texas. And number 3
job opportunities.
is the job opportunities about here. So there are plenty of job opportunities out here, just kind of segue into from the tax thing. So we have people like Amazon who's built a lot of hub stations.
What about Tesla?
Tesla has come out here, and they're in Austin, but they're also here in Houston too.
What about Chevron?
Chevron is moved they moved here from California a long time ago. Now Houston itself, I would say there's two of the major employers here in Houston is the oil and gas sector and the medical sector.
Yeah,
and
it's a huge one.
That just means that the quality of jobs is up. So that's just something that's also worth noting why people move into Texas. It's not that we have, and this is not like to offend anybody, but it's not like we have a million low minimum wage type jobs. We have a good amount of actual good salary jobs that you can sustain a family with out here in Houston. And that's why people are coming out here.
There is something that everybody says, like, Houston is not a tourist city.
Correct.
This is a city where you come to work.
To make money.
To make money.
Yep. To make money at all. And that's true. People do all the time. But if you're not from Houston, right? Let's just say you're not in oil and gas and you don't have this degree where you can just go, find a job one day or another. And let's just say, hey, I just don't want to live where I live because it's hard, right? I'm not saying that you did that, but you came from Florida with no promises of a job out here.
My husband, he had a job.
He had
the promise for a job.
Oh, that's what it was.
He was hired,
but you personally didn't.
I personally didn't have a promise.
And then how long do you think it took you to finally get going, like where you feel like you had a good income?
I would say 1 year.
1 year?
Yeah.
And then finding a job was finding a job hard? Or
it was only 1 month.
Yeah, 1 month.
Yeah, it was really quick.
Really quick. There's plenty of jobs. Now, granted, maybe you don't want the job. That's a whole different thing.
Yeah, that's different.
But there's plenty of jobs. And I was trying to use her as an example, but I mean, you have friends that come here all the time from outside of the state. And they get going pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I know you have investor friends who came here with nothing, and all of a sudden in 3 or 4 years,
they're flipping houses.
And
they renting houses. They have houses for rent. And they have flipped, like, I would say in a year, 7 houses.
Yep.
Yeah.
How many of your friends do you think are doing really well that came here from out of Texas?
All of them.
All of them, right?
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of going out there and putting yourself out there, and you'll find it. So there's plenty of jobs out here.
For myself, and I would say from like this opinion from my friends too, that we say that is no like better place like this one to find a job, to grow, and to get the American dream.
Yeah, there is. And it's not just white collar jobs, it's blue collar jobs, it's all kind of jobs. So let's just pretend why I like Houston over, let's just say Austin or Dallas for jobs specifically. I'm not trying to say anything bad, but I am trying to show off Houston. So we talked about how Houston has the oil and gas sector, right?
Healthcare.
And they have the medical sector, right? So we do have this row of, businesses called, in the medical center, which is almost like a downtown. And that has thousands of employees. Obviously, we have the gas. We have, what's that place on I-10 where a lot of the jobs are?
Energy corridor.
So the energy corridor, there's a lot of jobs there for the oil and gas. But we have places like the Woodlands that has their own types of jobs. Yeah. We have places like Galveston who has their own kind of jobs. We have places like Beaumont. Texas City, Beaumont. We have refineries. So
Port Arthur.
There's there's so many port types. So the variety of jobs that are important. And we're not even talking about like the main one, which is schools.
Yes, we were talking about oil, we were talking about healthcare, but education here is big. We have a lot of great universities, colleges. So there is a big market, like a big job opportunity for educators here in Houston.
I think so. And that's so getting a job, finding a home that's affordable is within your range when you move to Texas, especially compared to other places. But
if you comparing with other places, you still can find an apartment here, a 2-bedroom apartment for $970.
And in a good place too.
In a good place.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's $3,000 in other places. That's $2,000 in other states.
$2,000 in other states.
And it's puts you within the city and puts you within driving distance of a lot of really good things. So you have a lot of those things. So that's number 1. Number 2 is awesome. But number 3 also kind of all comes together. So number 3 reason why people move to Texas, well, you have your place to live and you have your job. So now you want to spend your money.
Okay.
Right? And spending your money in Texas goes a long, long way. So I would say that the cost of living in Houston and the cost of living in Texas is probably lower than other states. First of all, I'm not even going to talk about it, but I'm just going to say it. Our gas is probably just cheaper in general.
It is. It is cheaper. I can compare. Like when I moved to Houston, I remember that when I saw the price, I said, "What?
Yeah,
it's just so cheap."
Yeah. It's so cheap out here. Yeah. And then, so our gas prices, I mean, I'm not saying they don't go up
of course,
they go up and down like everybody else.
Yeah, we complain like the entire country.
Yeah.
But when you compare city by city,
it's just, it do so well. It do so well. I think because we have priority or something. I really don't know why, but it's just the gas prices in Houston are up. That's when I'm like worried for everybody else. That's not here. I'm like, if I'm paying $3, that means you're paying $5.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's kind of a thing, but it's not just gas. It's also like things like,
public transportation.
Public transportation is cheap. Now, public transportation has been a downside for Houston for a long time.
It is.
But they worked on, last 3 years, they've been working on improving that. And it's actually increased by 10%. I just want to put that stat out there. There's been 10% more activity and more usage of our public transportation system since they've tried to improve it.
Yep.
Groceries
too. It's of course cheaper than any like other part of the country. What about bills like water, utilities?
I would say all of those are. See, I'm going to compare. I used to live in North Carolina.
And I used to live in Florida. So always we're going to be comparing California and North Carolina and Florida. And
so I would say the bills, the utilities are cheap, especially the electricity bill is cheap here.
Definitely.
For sure. The electricity bill is cheap here. But the water is probably about the same. I'm not sure. I guess the water is the same. Now we do have our water, our way we bill for water in Houston depends on what part of the town you're in. But I would say water is really cheap. I would say gas is very cheap.
It's so cheap.
Gas is very cheap out here, or very affordable, rather. It's a better way to say that. But okay, but what about having fun and doing things with your family? Would you say that's more affordable? I mean, it's less affordable now than it was maybe 5 years ago. But if you wanted to go out to eat or go to the movies or...
Well, I just came back from Las Vegas.
Oh, did you?
And if I compare...
To Las Vegas, yes.
It's so cheap here.
Yeah,
It's so cheap.
I mean, everything is cheap compared to Vegas.
Yeah, that's true too. But yeah, I would say it's more affordable than other places that I have been in the States. Like, it's cheaper than Miami, and as I mentioned, as Vegas, and yeah, it's cheaper here.
And I think the economy in Houston is very healthy, and that lends it's very stable, and it lends itself for a lot more entrepreneurs and small businesses. And because we have so many small business and entrepreneurs, I would say that competition drives, the prices to be regulated, right? So I think there's a lot of mom and pop shops out here which help create an environment where things become and stay as affordable as possible for the common people.
And yeah, and because of the competition, we can find so unique places because of that same competition.
Exactly.
Yeah, so beautiful coffee shops and state-of-the-art bars and yeah.
Everything.
And
we have two major airports. We have lots of airports, but we have two major airports. So traveling and vacationing from Houston, I would say it's normal. It's not the cheapest. It's not the most expensive. No. I'm sure flying out of somewhere else flying out of Arkansas is probably cheaper, but there's more opportunities and flights to pick from in Houston.
And one thing that I like about the location that we have is it's not the same if you live in Florida or if you live in California to travel and visit other part of the country. Because we are here in Texas, we are in the middle. We can take it's pretty much like we are in the center. We can take a plane to Florida. We can take an airplane to California. And the price is not that crazy. Like, let's say I live in California and I want to go to Florida. That ticket is going to be expensive. So I say, in my opinion, the location that we have over here
it's ideal, right?
Ideal.
That makes me think there's a lot of daycations, like places you can go in one day. Texas is so big, but you can go to Fredericksburg, which is wine country in Texas. You can go to Austin, have fun. You can go to, no, I'm not going to say Dallas, no offense, but we can go to San Antonio for the Riverwalk. You can go to Galveston. I mean, Galveston's, for fishing and stuff like that, but you can go to Padre Island. There's a lot of places. So even if it comes to like family vacation and you're not in a place where, hey, we're not going to spend $15,000 to go to Disney World this year, you can probably, with a family of four, spend less than $1,000 and have great time and go somewhere and travel and learn and experience and have a really good vacation all the same. So it is pretty affordable.
I know that you're talking about vacations and I'm thinking about jobs and opportunities. And because we mentioned about the location, the location that Houston has is also very attractive for truck drivers.
Oh, true.
Yeah, they make Houston. I have a friend that says the downtown of the truck drivers that is in like Chinatown, that area of Houston, and they are all located there. All the services that help truck drivers, the most of them are there. But what makes Houston special for them is the location. They can move here, live here, and drive around the routes, the routes around the country. But if they have to go with the truck to Florida, they can go. And if they have to go to California, they will go. But that is split the driving time.
It's perfect right there for them.
Yeah. And since we're talking about trucks, transportation, let's talk about traffic.
Yeah, traffic's a big one.
It's a big one here. Traffic, I admit that it could be hard to get to some places, and you can take quite a minute to get to one point to the other one.
Yep.
But if you compare with other cities, we are good here.
Yeah. So let's if we're talking about traffic between the major city to major city across the nation, I mean, I think we're probably in the middle of the road. We're not the best, we're not the worst. Yeah. I will say though that while our traffic is average, I would say that the most of the reason of our traffic is because our city's is geographically large, right? So
Yes.
there's a lot of actual
extensive.
space. It's a really, really wide city. So because of that, it's not that it takes you, for example, in California or in Los Angeles, where it takes you an hour to go 3 miles because in traffic, like, in traffic jam or, rush hour. It's not that that's not our case here. It's just, it's 10 miles to get from point A to point B, and the traffic between there is taking you 30 minutes. I would say on average in the mornings, it adds probably 15 to 30 minutes to your commute compared to when there's no traffic, right? Now I-10, which goes across the top of Houston, is very wide. It's like how many lanes is it, you think?
10 on 10?
10 on each side, right? It's like 20 lanes wide. So they do try to mitigate the accidents and then try to get them moving along pretty quick. So traffic is, I don't know, it's not a reason people move to Texas. But I mean, obviously, if you're comparing it to like other huge cities, I would say they do really, really well. Now, I would say maybe like Austin probably has worse traffic than Houston. And the reason I say Austin has worse traffic is not because the traffic's really, really bad. It's because it's a smaller geographic city. So there's just more congestion and less ways for them to resolve that quickly to get traffic flowing. Whereas Houston's so wide and big, there could be an accident, but there's somebody there in 15 minutes, take care of it. And even while the accident's happening, there's ways around it where you don't really have that luxury. And then in Dallas, it's hard to say about Dallas because Dallas and Fort Worth, I'm like, what are we really talking about for traffic wise? So they don't really have as much traffic as probably Houston and Austin. But I also would argue that people in Dallas usually confuse Fort Worth and Dallas, and I don't know which one we're talking about when it comes to traffic. So maybe that works to their advantage too.
One thing that I don't like, and I remember when I moved to Houston, it was shock to me. It was the condition of the roads.
Yeah.
It's really bad. And I remember that I was thinking, why everybody here has a truck?
Yeah.
I remember, you have to get a truck, you have to buy a truck. I still don't have the truck though, but I understand the reason why. And it's because of the condition. Well, first is the Texas lifestyle that requires a truck and a hat
anyway.
and a boots.
Exactly. That's just part of
But the roads, they're not like even, or they has a lot of holes, potholes. Yeah, it's not the best. We're not the best on that part.
Yeah, and that's like specifically like in town, downtown. Now, most of the suburbs, so if you live in like Richmond, Pearland, Katy, Woodlands, all of the suburb ones, right?
I agree.
They have great roads. Yeah. Like everything around Houston is smooth, it's great, it's easy. All the toll roads are pristine.
But in Houston,
downtown Houston, when you're trying to get through stuff, that's pretty ugly. Yeah.
Galleria, Westheimer Road.
Westheimer, it gets pretty rough.
Richmond.
I would say that's kind of a con as far as those things. But Houston is so big that depending on what you're looking for, specifically needing, you can avoid that. I mean, I feel like
it's not a thing like, oh no, I'm not gonna drive that road. It's because I came from Miami, and that was huge in Miami. I remember it looked like carpet almost.
Clean roads.
Yeah, I-95, it was so clean, so perfect. And I remember driving one day and I saw like a hole or something on the road. And I remember that saying the other day that was not there because that is a priority over there.
Yeah, so I would say, traffic is not too bad. I would say it's middle. It's not a reason people move here, but it's also not necessarily a deterrent either if you're used to that.
But now that I put in a balance. Okay, you want the perfect road or you want the traffic. The traffic in Miami is crazy.
It's bad.
It's horrible. Yep. You had to wake up very early to get to another place and on time.
Yep.
So I stay here. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
I prefer my roads here.
Yeah, not too bad. And they're always working on roads and hopefully they're construction. But like I said, the suburbs are good. And also where the heavy bad roads aren't necessarily always where you want to be. So I was gonna make a point when it comes to traffic because there's so many ways to get around, but there's so many places too. So like the Galleria Mall, which is a huge mall here, like may not be my first choice of a mall anyway. I'm passing like 5 malls just to get to that mall anyway. So I'd rather just go to the other malls instead.
I haven't driven that road that I'm mentioning, like in a long time.
Long time, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean,
I
it
stayed in the suburbs.
depends on the lifestyle that you have out there. So that's one to do out there. So I guess if we're gonna talk about traffic, let's also talk about the weather. I mean, the weather here is hot.
It's really hot and really humid.
Really hot, really humid. I think all of my out-of-state people who come in, almost everybody is okay with the heat. Like even the people in the north are like, oh fine, I'd rather have this heat than 5 feet of snow that they have. The only people that I see tend to not like the heat so much are the Californians who come here because they're used to like perfect 70 degrees year round. We don't have that. Like we're talking about the weather says 80 something degrees, we're great place, right?
Yeah.
If it says 90 something, then we're just used to that. It is what it is.
Not only that, the thermostat, or it can say that it's 95, but the feeling is around 110.
Yes, and they actually have that. It'll say 95 degrees, but feels like 105 or something like that. And the way they calculate that is because of the humidity and the way how quickly the heat leaves your body or how quickly your heat stays with your body due to humidity. So even though it could be 100 degrees, it'll say it feels like 112. But what do we say about Houston all the time?
That is one of the biggest cities with AC units in the entire city.
In the entire nation, probably the world.
The entire nation of Houston.
There's more ACs here than there is anywhere else. I mean, your car, the stores, everything. So like, while it is really, really hot, you only ever experience it walking out of your car.
A few minutes a day.
It's not too bad. You stay in the cool inside of something a long time. Now,
if you decide that you're gonna jog, you have to do it very early in the morning or night.
And it even gets hot at night too. I would say August and July is probably our hottest months. And I would say definitely. January and February are our coolest months. And then maybe we'll have 1 week where it's like 20 something degrees or below 30 degrees for like 1 week, maybe 2 weeks max. And then our winter is like usually in the 40s or 50s. So it's pretty great. It's great. You get used to it.
If you compare it with other cities that it's snow and you have to pelt the snow, we're fine.
Yeah,
we're fine here.
The weather is not too bad.
You can go to the beach, you go to Galveston, you can go fishing. So the weather, it can get hot, but I prefer the hot than the snow.
Yeah, I guess it's up to you guys whether you want to do it now. We do get, so when it comes to weather, it's not just the heat. There's a lot of rains and a lot of storm and stuff like that. And you kind of get used to the rain here in Houston. It's not too bad. It's not depressing. Like it happens all the time. And usually when it rains, we kind of like it because the weather is cooler right after it rains too. So the weather is actually pretty enjoyable. I would say, speaking about snow, like I'd rather have the rain and heat than snow where, your cars are getting beat up or you're getting the salt attacking your car and your paint every year because of it. So I would say it's pretty good. It's pretty good out here.
And one other thing that I think it could make someone to move to Texas is the friendly people that are here.
Yeah.
If you're worried about how it's gonna be that new place that you're gonna live in, you know that this is a friendly state.
It's a friendly state. We have a lot of what people call Southern hospitality. So a lot of people here have, common courtesy. They're very socially friendly. They're not gonna just treat you like you're just some stranger. Most people are going to help each other out here. Actually, a lot of times people help out each other. I know when we've had hurricanes and stuff like that here,
remember those days.
People help each other out a lot. So the hospitality is just through the roof out here. And I don't just mean in the sense of when you talk to your neighbors, because obviously they're going to be friendly or not friendly.
No, when you are going to grocery store and you see strangers, they're saying hi.
Yeah, exactly. So even with the strangers are there, even when it comes to customer service as a whole, I mean, obviously there's bad apples in any bunch, but even when you go through a drive-through at a regular fast food chain, you're going to get treated really well and with common courtesy and hospitality. And I don't want to say anything bad about other states, but I can tell you that my experiences living in other states have been the opposite, where it's not that they were being rude or inconsiderate, it's just not normal for them to go to that extent to be friendly with the common person. So it's very, very friendly.
And that goes also when you're driving around. Of course, as you said before, there is bad apple not in any bunch, but I see friendly people driving too. Like if you let me pass you, I would say thank you, or I would wave my hands to appreciate that. So you will feel welcome from the first day that you move here.
Yeah, and I can take it one step deeper, one little bit deeper than that. We're friendly. There's a lot of hospitality out here, and because it's Houston in particular. Houston to me is one of the biggest, most diverse cities in all of the United States. It's underrated. I know places like New York City are considered a melting pot, and it absolutely is, and so is Los Angeles. But I would say Houston is up there too. The diversity that we have here is through the roof. We have so many cultures. We have,
many.
I think in Houston, I think I have a stat here, over 145 languages are spoken here. And it's not just that we have a lot of culture and diversity, it's that we make space for these cultures and diversity to really show off and
let them be.
Let them be and experience that. And we get to experience other people's cultures all the time. So like you'll have, a certain country will have like a parade and they'll have their let's celebrate culture, and you'll have a lot of people participate in that. So the hospitality and the friendliness just goes beyond a certain amount of people. It's all kinds of people who are like that.
I have a friend that she said that she was living in another state and she came to visit a family member. And when she came to Houston, she felt like so welcome for the people. Like, it doesn't matter how you look or where you're from, you are just a person.
Yep.
That she had to move here just because of that.
Just because of that. That's a big deal. I think thankfully I've serviced a lot of people from out of state who move here all the time. And I can tell you just from my personal experience and talking to my clients, everybody makes friends really fast, regardless of your personality, regardless if you're the introvert or extrovert, if you put yourself out there, not put yourself out there. I feel like there's such a wide variety of personalities and culture out here that you'll find somebody that you'll connect with, and you'll have your people, right? You'll have your friends, you'll have your core, your tribe, the people that you want to have fun with and spend time with. You'll find that in no time. And especially if you're from out of state, I know for a lot of people who are coming from California, for example, I'll ask them what they miss about California, and then we'll find houses that are located with the same type of environment that they're used to in California. And very quickly, once they move in there, they're right at home. They're actually getting the best of both worlds, because now they're getting all the benefits of living in Texas,
but with the vibe
of California. So you'll have a place here thanks to how diverse the actual state is. But I think Houston in particular is even more diverse than normal. Not to mention the food. I think the food scene here is underrated, but it competes with any major city.
And that diversity, not only for foods, but because of like diversity in cultures, honestly, is one of the things. Maybe because I'm diverse.
Yeah, we're diverse anyway.
Yeah, because that's one of the things that I love, that I'm proud, and I mention it to my family members that don't live in the States. I try to explain that you can find Chinatown with the architecture, the houses, the names of the streets in another languages, and then you can drive past Chinatown and then there is a Pakistani place or an Indian
influenced area.
Area. So this is something that I love about our city.
It does a great job for that. I think we should end it on a really positive note.
Okay.
We said a lot of positive things, but let's talk about one more thing that makes people want to move to Texas. Or if you're thinking about moving to Texas, now you'll know this is a reason to move to Texas. While Houston in particular, we say is not necessarily a touristy city.
But we have things to do.
We are a very active city.
Yes.
Like, we like to have fun, we like to do things, and we like to cater to the entire diversity at the same time, because of Houston specifically, no matter how you identify or what kind of interest you may have in general, there is something there for you. So we always have things to do in Houston, regardless of not being quote unquote touristy. You'll have fun out here. So let's talk about some of the things that we know of, or some of the things that we personally experience that are fun here to do.
Well, I will go farther out of Houston. I will talk about this national park here in Texas.
Yeah.
That it's funny because I went to visit Utah National Parks, and I was walking, trying to get to the Delicate Arch in Utah. And I heard a lady that was walking by me, and she said to someone, "What is the national park that Texas has?" And I said, Big Bend National Park. And she was like, what are you listening? So we have a national park here that actually is very underrated.
Yep.
It's beautiful, beautiful. And I highly, highly recommend it that if you live here or if you come to visit Texas, make it in the list, put it in the bucket list of visiting.
Yeah, Big Bend's so nice. And now I'll say Houston in particular, one of the biggest attractions we have.
Let's go back to Houston.
This is like a 1-month party that we called the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. Yeah, so we have a rodeo that lasts a whole month. And it's not just a rodeo with everything.
The rodeo.
It's everything.
It's everything.
You're gonna show up, you're gonna feel out of place if you don't have boots and a hat. But even if you don't, no big deal, who cares, right? But it's a fair, it's a rodeo where you get to see, actual rodeo type events like, bull riding or the really cool horse racing and stuff like that. But every single night for 30 days, you'll have concerts. And it's not just anybody, they hire major artists every single night to come out and do a concert for us. And it's awesome. It's a great experience. Everybody loves the rodeo. There's things to do in that sense. And that's
what about the food?
Food's
competition, great. Barbecue competition?
They do, like a week before. Before the rodeo starts, the kickoff is a week-long competition of barbecue. If you get a ticket to that, you're gonna do so well. Like the food is amazing to do. There's all kinds of things to do though. I think because we're so invested in our oil and gas and our medical and our education, the city does a really good job of making sure we have other stuff here like museums. Yeah, the District Museum is a place that you have to go and visit. The National Science Museum is amazing. It's a place that you must visit. Yeah. I love it. I always go with the family. It's so good. And we have all of the major sports here in Houston too. So, we have baseball, we have football, we have basketball. We used to have hockey and there were rumors that hockey may come back and I really wish it will and that's gonna be awesome. So we have sports year round. We have minor leagues year round to do stuff like that too. We have so many sports recreationally for different age groups, right? There's a softball league for adults, there's a softball league for kids. All kinds of things to do. And because Houston, again, we make money here, right? Houston's a city of money. You come here, you're gonna make some money. We like to spend money too. People love to come and do shows and concerts here all the time. And we have 4 different places that I can think of. We have like Toyota Center. We have NRG Stadium, Cynthia Woods Mitchell Pavilion, which is in the Woodlands. And then we have the Sugarland one that just opened. Those are 4 major, I'm sure there's more, but those are the 4 major concert halls. And you will have, somebody like Usher at the Woodlands and then some other major artists. Jones in the NRG, the Toyota Center. And they're all happening at the same time. So it's cool. There's year round, there's all kinds of things to do. You will be entertained, even if it's not a touristy city. And of course, like everybody in the country knows this. Houston, we have a problem. Yep. This is the house of the NASA. Yeah, the NASA. Yeah, we do have NASA out here. Yeah, NASA headquarters is here. Yeah, it's a great place to visit. Have you been to the NASA yet? A lot of time. Oh, it's so good. Even tired. No, I'm not tired of going, but it's a thing that every time that you have someone visiting you or even clients that they know that the NASA is here, we had to take it to the NASA. Yeah. Now, quick tip, if you go to NASA, just go there early because you will spend the whole day there. Exactly. Like everything is so interesting. It is. You will watch every little thing and go one at a time. It's one of those, it's really, really cool. It's very cool. All kinds of things to do in Houston and in Texas in general. And hopefully this explains why people are moving to Texas and still do. I know during COVID, a lot of people were moving, and that hasn't, maybe that slowed down a little bit, but not really. It's still very consistent that we have people moving to Texas. So hopefully you take this list and it convinces you to move to Houston and you give us a call and we'll happy to connect you with what the different areas are like and what they have to offer and all of these things and how they actually apply to the specific areas in Houston. However, if you live here and you notice something that we didn't mention, please comment below and let us know that because of course we're gonna be updating videos and we would like to include the opinions. I wonder what you guys, what made you guys move to Texas or stay here in Texas and in Houston in particular. Well, I think that's all we got for today. Yeah, we'll see you in the next video.